I know a lot of people like that. I know what you mean. But the worst part is that they cannot present the play by themselves, he continued. So they begin to invite other actors to join in. That's what the fellow outside was doing. He wanted revenge for something, and he chose us to play a part. If we had accepted his restrictions, we'd be regretting it now. We would have been defeated. We would have agreed to participate in his miserable life and in his frustrations. The man's aggression was easy to see. So it was easy for us to refuse the role he wanted us to play. But other people also invite us to behave like victims when they complain about the unfairness of life. For example, and ask us to agree, to offer advice, to participate. He looked into my eyes. Be careful. When you join in that game, you always wind up losing. He was right, but I still wasn't happy about being inside the chapel. Okay, but I've already said my prayer. I've done what I wanted to do. Let's go. The contrast between the darkness inside the chapel and the strong sunlight blinded me for a few moments. When my eyes adjusted, I saw that the old man was no longer there. Let's have some lunch, he said, walking in the direction of the village. I drank 2 glasses of wine at lunch. I'd never done that in my whole life. He was speaking to the waiter, who told him that there were several Roman ruins in the area. I was trying to listen to their conversation, but I was having trouble stifling my bad mood. The princess has turned into a frog. So what? Who do I have to prove anything to? I wasn't looking for anything, not for a man, and certainly not for love. I knew it, I said to myself. I knew he was going to turn my world upside down. My brain warned me. But my heart didn't want to take its advice. I've paid a considerable price for the little I have gained. I've been forced to deny myself many things I've wanted, to abandon so many roads that were open to me. I've sacrificed my dreams in the name of a larger dream and a peaceful soul. I didn't want to give up that peace. You're tense, he said, breaking off his conversation with the waiter. Yes, I am. I think that old man went for the police. I think this is a small place and they know where we are. I think this boldness of yours about having lunch here could wind up ruining our holiday. He twirled his glass of water. Surely he knew that this was not the problem, that I was actually ashamed. Why do we always do this? Why do we notice the speck in our eye but not the mountains, the fields, the olive groves? Listen, that's not going to happen, he said. The old man has gone home and has already forgotten the whole thing. Trust me. That's not why I'm so tense, you idiot. Listen to your heart more, he went on. That's just it. I am listening to it, I said, and I feel that we should leave. I'm not enjoying this place. You shouldn't drink during the day. It doesn't help anything. Up to that point, I'd controlled myself. Now it was time to say what I thought. You think you know everything? I said. That you know all about magic moments, the inner child? I don't know what you're doing here with me. He laughed. I admire you, and I admire the battle you're waging with your heart. What battle? Never mind, he said. But I knew what he was talking about. Don't kid yourself, I said. We can talk about it if you like. You're mistaken about my feelings. He stopped fooling with his glass and looked at me. No, I'm not mistaken. I know you don't love me. This confused me even more. But I'm going to fight for your love, he continued. There are some things in life that are worth fighting for to the end. You are worth it, he said. I turned away, trying to pretend that I was interested in the restaurant's decor. I had been feeling like a frog, and suddenly I was a princess again. I want to believe what you're saying, I thought to myself. It won't change anything, but at least I won't feel so weak, so incapable. I apologize for my outburst, I said. He smiled, signaled to the waiter, and paid the check. On the way back to the car, I became confused again. Maybe it was the sun, but no, it was autumn, and the sun was weak. Perhaps the old man, but he disappeared a while ago. All this was so new to me. Life takes us by surprise and orders us to move toward the unknown, even when we don't want to, and when we think we don't need to. I tried to concentrate on the scenery, but I couldn't focus on the olive groves. The village atop the mountain, the chapel with the old man at the gate, all of it was so unfamiliar. I remembered how much I drunk the day before and the song he had sung. Las tardecitas de Buenos Aires tienen este no sé, qué sé yo. Viste salir de tu casa por Arenales. Why sing of the nights of Buenos Aires when we were in Bilbao? I didn't live on a street called Arenales. What had gotten into him? What was that song you were singing yesterday? I asked. Balada para un loco, he said. Why do you ask about it now? I don't know, but I had a reason. I knew he'd sung that song as a kind of snare. He made me memorize the words just as I would memorize coursework for an examination. He could have sung a song I was familiar with, but he'd chosen one I'd never heard before. It was a trap. Later, if I heard the song played on the radio or at a club, I'd think of him, of Bilbao, and of a time in my life when autumn turned to spring. I'd recall the excitement, the adventure, and the child who was reborn out of God knows where. That's what he was thinking. He was wise, experienced. He knew how to woo the woman he wanted. I'm going crazy, I told myself. I must be an alcoholic, drinking so much 2 days in a row. He knows all the tricks. He's controlling me, leading me along with his sweetness. I admire the battle you are waging with your heart, he had said at the restaurant. But he was wrong, because I had fought with my heart and defeated it long ago. I was certainly not going to become passionate about something that was impossible. I knew my limits. I knew how much suffering I could bear. Say something, I demanded, as we walked back to the car. What? Anything. Talk to me. So he began to tell me about the visions of the Virgin Mary at Fatima. I don't know why he came up with that, but the story of the three shepherds who had spoken to the Virgin distracted me. My heart relaxed. Yes, I know my limits, and I know how to stay in control. We arrived at night in a fog so dense we could hardly see where we were. I could make out only a small plaza, a lamp post, some medieval houses barely illuminated by the yellow light, and a well. The fog, he exclaimed. I couldn't understand why he was so excited. We're in Saint-Savin, he explained. The name meant nothing to me, but we were in France, and that in itself thrilled me. Why this place? I asked. Because the house I want you to see is here, he answered, laughing. Also, I promised that I would come back here on the day of the Immaculate Conception. Here? Well, near here. He stopped the car. When we stepped out, he took my hand, and we began to walk through the fog. This place became a part of my life quite unexpectedly, he said. You too, I thought. When I first came here, I thought, I was lost. But I wasn't. Actually, I was just rediscovering it. You talk in riddles sometimes, I said. This is where I realized how much I needed you in my life. I looked away. I couldn't understand him. But what does that have to do with losing your way? Let's find someone who'll rent us a room because the 2 hotels in this village are only open during the summer. Then we'll have dinner at a restaurant, no tension. No fear of the police, no need to think about running back to the car. And when the wine loosens our tongues, we'll talk about many things. We both laughed. I already felt more relaxed. During the drive here, I had looked back over the wild things I'd been thinking. And as we crossed over the top of the mountains that separate France from Spain, I'd asked God to cleanse my soul of tension and fear. I was tired of playing the child and acting the way many of my friends did. The ones who are afraid that love is impossible without even knowing what love is. If I stayed like that, I would miss out on everything good that these few days with him might offer. Careful, I thought. Watch out for the break in the dam. If that occurs, nothing in the world will be able to stop it. May the Virgin protect us from here on, he said. I remained silent. Why didn't you say amen? He asked. Because I don't think that's important anymore. There was a time when religion was a part of my life, but that time has passed. He turned around and began to walk back to the car. I still pray, I went on. I prayed as we were crossing the Pyrenees. But it's something automatic, and I'm not even sure I still believe in it. Why? Because I've suffered, and God didn't listen to my prayers. Because many times in my life I have tried to love with all my heart, and my love has wound up being trampled or betrayed. If God is love, he should have cared more about my feelings. God is love. But the one who understands this best is the Virgin. I burst out laughing. When I turned to look at him, I saw that he was serious. This was not a joke. The Virgin understands the mystery of total surrender, he went on. And having loved and suffered, she freed us from pain, in the same way that Jesus freed us from sin. Jesus was the Son of God. They say that the Virgin was merely a woman who happened to receive him in her womb. I said, I was trying to make up for my laughter and let him know that I respected his faith. He opened the car door and took out our bags. When I tried to take mine from his hand, he smiled. "Let me carry your bag." No one's done that for me in a long time, I thought. We knocked on the door of the first house, but the woman said she didn't rent rooms. At the second door, no one answered. At the third, a kind old man greeted us, but when we looked at the room, there was only a double bed. I turned it down. "Maybe we should head for a larger city," I suggested as we left. "We'll find a room," he said. "Do you know The Exercise of the Other? It's part of a story written 100 years ago, whose author—" "Forget the author and tell me the story," I interrupted. We were once more walking along the only street in Saint-Savin. Man runs into an old friend who had somehow never been able to make it in life. I should give him some money, he thinks, but instead he learns that his old friend has grown rich and is actually seeking him out to repay the debts he had run up over the years. They go to a bar they used to frequent together, and the friend buys drinks for everyone there. When they ask him how he became so successful, he answers that until only a few days ago, he had been living the role of the other. "What is the other?" they ask. "The other is the one who taught me what I should be like, but not what I am. The other believes that it is our obligation to spend our entire life thinking about how to get our hands on as much money as possible so that we will not die of hunger when we are old. So we think so much about money and our plans for acquiring it that we discover we are alive only when our days on earth are practically done. And then it's too late. And you? Who are you?" "I am just like everyone else who listens to their hearts, a person who is enchanted by the mystery of life, who is open to miracles, who experiences joy and enthusiasm for what they do. It's just that the other, afraid of disappointment, kept me from taking action." "But there is suffering in life," one of the listeners said, "and there are defeats. No one can avoid them, but it's better to lose some of the battles in the struggle for your dreams than to be defeated without ever even knowing what you're fighting for." "That's it?" another listener asked. "Yes, that's it. When I learned this, I resolved to become the person I had always wanted to be." The other stood there in the corner of my room, watching me. But I will never let the other into myself again, even though it has already tried to frighten me, warning me that it's risky not to think about the future. For the moment that I ousted the other from my life, the divine energy began to perform its miracles. In spite of the fact that my friend had long ago expelled the other from his life, he still wasn't having much luck finding us lodging for the night. But I knew he hadn't told me that story for his own sake. He had told it for mine. He seemed to be talking about my fears, my insecurity, and my unwillingness to see what was wonderful because tomorrow it might disappear, and then I would suffer. The gods throw the dice, and they don't ask whether we want to be in the game or not. They don't care if when you go you leave behind a lover, a home, a career, or a dream. The gods don't care whether you have it all, whether it seems that your every desire can be met through hard work and persistence. The gods don't want to know about your plans and your hopes. Somewhere They're throwing the dice, and you are chosen. From then on, winning or losing is only a question of luck. The gods throw the dice, freeing love from its cage, and love can create or destroy depending on the direction of the wind when it is set free. For the moment, the wind was blowing in his favor, but the wind is as capricious as the gods, and deep inside myself I had begun to feel some gusts. At last, as if fate wanted to show me that the story of the other was true, and the universe always conspires to help the dreamer, we found a house to stay in, with a room with separate beds.